in the late 90s, I was DJing on a late night show in Brighton called Totally Wired, which is still going to this day, although I don't present it. And at that time, I'd been into Spacemen 3. I had not all their albums, but I had Playing with Fire, Perfect Prescription, Taking Drugs to Make Music, to take drugs too, and a few of the singles and stuff. So I was definitely a fan, but I wasn't like a completist. And then I'd seen Sonic Boom play live a few times doing his more sort of abstracted stuff. I'd seen Spiritualized a couple of times, including at Glastonbury and so on. And I'd even played Lupine Howl on my radio show as well. I don't know how many people can say that, but and I was aware of I was aware of Slipstream, but I hadn't heard them. And then there was a guy called Jack Trevelyan who ran a couple of labels, Enraptured and Endorphin. And I'd played a couple of his things. And he had a batch of, I think, 6 singles he was releasing all at once by several different artists. And they were all pretty good. I think Jack had excellent taste. But the one that absolutely leapt out at me was Slipstream's Everything and Anything. And I don't know how many times I must have played it on the show. And it just lodged in my mind as being like a classic track, really. I think it's a classic melody, beautifully sung, beautifully articulated, and very subtle as well, which I think as some of Spiritualized stuff has edged towards sometimes being a bit bombastic, not necessarily in a bad way. I think Slipstream have got more subtle and more nuanced and more varied in their approach, and I really admire them for that. But anyway, I love this song, and it was one I still regularly played, and I put it on mixtapes for people and so on. And then in sort of the early noughties, when I started doing my show Ideal for BBC Three, which was about a drug dealer starring Johnny Vegas, I was in charge. I put myself in charge of choosing all the soundtrack music, and it was one of the greatest pleasures of the whole project, really. And I knew that I wanted to use that tune in some capacity on there, and it ended up being used in a very direct way, in that Johnny's character Moz put it on to seduce a girl that he was really into, and was like pretending to sing along with us. So it wasn't. Well, as you may know, in cinema and film, there's different types of music. There's diegetic and non-diegetic, and diegetic is stuff that's happening within the story, whereas non-diegetic is stuff that's the soundtrack that's added for the audience. But it was diegetic. It was right in there. So he was referring to it. He was putting it on, saying, "Oh, you're going to love this," and so on, which I thought was a nice tribute to a really lovely song. And the scene got a great response, and Johnny loved the tune, and it was great, really. And I carried on really using more Slipstream music in the series, just because it's so good. It's so atmospheric. Some of it, and I'm sure Mark wouldn't mind me saying this, but some of it really reminds me of Popol Vuh, which I think is a big influence on Mark. And of course, that's very cinematic, very soundtrack-like music. So I think after The Fall and Coil, they're the band I used the most music of on the show. There's a track called Zoomer Wave, which I used on a few occasions, which looks absolutely beautiful. And it was weird because Mark got in touch at one point and said, "Oh, I've got this track I want to play you," because by that stage I'd met Mark and I'd met Johnny, and I thought they were really nice guys, and I'd been to see them live and so on. So we got on, and we sort of we were in contact. He said, "I'll send you this track," and so he sent me this track called Psycho Paul. Which was about the character Psycho Paul in Ideal, although the only lyrics I think are Psycho Paul. But it was a great tune, and I played it to death, and I just thought, I can't not have this in the show. And so in the end, I had the character of Psycho Paul singing along, lip syncing with the track. So again, it was that thing of like not just using the music, but making the music integral to the action that was happening in the show. And yeah, I still listen to their stuff now. I'm still excited whenever Mark says, "Oh, got some new tracks to play." I'm always thrilled, and I always find it's all good, but there's always 2 or 3 tracks on any Slipstream album or bunch of demos. I think, oh wow, and they recently, more recently, they did a cover of that Daniel Johnston track. Is it True Love? Is it called True Love Will Find You in the End? And I just thought, this is the best version of this I've ever heard. And plenty of people have done versions of it, but I just thought, no, this is the definitive version. Certainly better than the original for my money. So yeah, I think their music's great. I think Mark and Johnny are both incredibly talented. people, and you know, obviously they both played with lots of other people as well. I mean, if you took away Slipstream and Spiritualized and Spacemen 3 from Mark's CV, you'd still be left with an impressive list of achievements. So yeah, I'm honoured to consider them friends, and I love the music. I'm going to stop gushing now.